Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Joe the Juggernaut. And today I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 biggest benefits that I feel that you get from joining the National Guard. Let's go. So thanks for joining me, y'all. As usual, let's get this out the way. The opinions expressed in this video are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the Department of the Army or any other federal entity whatsoever. So, if you're new to the channel, thanks for joining me. My name is Joe. I am 39 years old. I enlisted into the Army National Guard in Texas back in April of 2024, and I'm still awaiting a ship out to basic training to get my journey started. But created this channel just to share some beneficial information for you on the Army National Guard, specifically related to the state of Texas. Just know that most of the information I share is pretty applicable across the country. So you might be asking yourself, what is the National Guard? Is that something completely different from the Army Reserve? Yes and no. So let's get started by explaining the 3 main components of the Army. So number 1 is the active duty component. That is your full-time service to the military, your 9 to 5 or 12 to 12, whatever the needs of the Army are. It's your full-time job, right? And so once you sign that contract, you're committed to that job and that role for quite some time, right? So that 4 years, you might be able to switch your job later on down the future. But again, the Army is your full-time job at that point. So the next one is the Army Reserve. The Army Reserve is a part-time component of the Army, and it supports the active duty component. So what you would do typically in the in the Army Reserve is serve 1 week in a month and maybe 2 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer during the summer for annual training. That 1 week in a month is typically dedicated to supporting the, again, active component at some kind of base that is relatively close to you. Not always guaranteed, but again, part-time service. So you're gonna pick a job, you'll show up to do that job. Sometimes you could get stuck doing some required training and paperwork they might have at your unit. But again, it's part-time service, so you can keep your normal job or go to school full-time, whatever it is that you're looking to do, in addition to serving. Then there is the Army National Guard. So that is something that I enlisted into. So the biggest difference between the Army Reserve and the Army National Guard is that the Army National Guard is also funded by the state. So again, the Reserve and active duty components are federally funded. So is the National Guard in part, but we're also state funded as well. So for example, I'm in Texas, we're also partially funded by the state, and we primarily report to the governor of Texas in addition to the President of the United States, whereas the active duty component and the Reserve exclusively report to, again, the President of the United States. Little difference. There come some benefits with that I'm getting ready to talk about. So benefit number 1 from joining the National Guard is that you're close to home. So when you join the National Guard, you have to select a job that you qualify for, and there has to be a vacancy. And so what that means is that if you are looking to be, for example, what I am, or looking to be, or here pretty soon, is a combat medic. Now, in order to be a combat medic, I have to qualify both physically and, according to my test scores, my ASVAB, everything, had to qualify for that job first and foremost. And secondly, there had to be a vacancy within a unit relatively close to me. The advantage, again, is serving close to home. So when you are going through the process and you're looking to pick a job, your recruiter will work with you to identify what vacancies there are, or even potential vacancies there will be in the near future, based upon what you're looking at, right? And so for me, being in San Antonio, we looked at several different cities. So San Antonio, Austin, Kerrville, Seguin, even as far as Corpus. And so we're kind of looking at what jobs are open in those cities where there is, again, military installation, or what will be opening here in the near future. Once you select a job, you lock in that job, and your recruiter will say, all right, cool, we've reserved that spot. So once you complete basic and AIT, you'll go to that unit where that job is. So huge benefit, whereas the reserve component, from my understanding, if you're picking a job, you can pick whatever job you want, but you might not necessarily be close to or tied into a unit that job is aligned to. You might be asked to drill somewhere close, but it's not necessarily going to be your reserve unit. So a little different. Now, part of that being close to home is that you can volunteer for local missions. And what that means is that with the National Guard, there's various missions throughout the state that could help, that could need some help. And so, for example, in Texas, we get hit by hurricanes a lot, and you could be called to service, right? So you could be deployed to help with a local effort, or you can volunteer for some of those efforts like border security that we have here down in Texas. There's a big backlog for that because people want to do it. It's great money, good opportunity to serve. But again, it gives you that sense of community where you're like working in and around your community and serving them directly, versus again, a reserve component where you could have a unit that maybe is not even in your state, that you are directly aligned to. So I thought that was a huge benefit. Again, I can serve when I want, or if I am serving, I get that sense of community. You know, we always have the, you know, Texas Strong, right? And so that's even on my introduction, like you really get that feeling like when you're part of something that is so like such a tight-knit community. The second benefit that I think is awesome is funding. So as I mentioned before, we are partially funded, you know, by the state, as in addition to, you know, the federal government. And what's great about Texas that we have 100% tuition assistance. And so that means that when I come back from basic training in AIT, when I start going to school, I can use state tuition assistance to help finish my degree. So I'm currently a junior in college. So that state tuition assistance, again, is 100%, is going to help me pay for school until I finish my undergrad. What's awesome is that in many cases, many of my fellow warriors are able to finish their bachelor's degree, and sometimes even tap into their master's without touching like some of their federal benefits. So they're able to kind of like pass those benefits along to either their spouse or their kids later on down the road, which is what I'm looking to do. I have 3 kids. One of my kids, her tuition is completely paid for already because her dad actually passed down his GI Bill to her. And so again, I have 2 kids that I still have to pay college for in addition to mine. And so what's awesome again is that I'll be able to finish my degree with state tuition assistance before even touching my federal. Hopefully I can get that passed down to my daughter or my son, which is awesome. So I think that's a huge flex of being in the National Guard. You, again, if you wanted to use your GI Bill and all that good stuff, you still can. But again, I think it's a huge flex just being able to use the state tuition assistance and state funding before even tapping into federal. The last thing last benefit that I think is pretty awesome about the National Guard is our ability to do what's called AGR service. So that's active guard reserve. And so what that means is that if at some point your reserve unit or guard unit or other guard unit around you has an opportunity to serve full time, you can do that. Now, the biggest difference between serving full-time in the National Guard versus serving full-time in the active component is that the active component, again, it's federal, so they can send you anywhere, right? So they can anywhere across the country, even overseas, to have PCS somewhere. It could be Germany, it could be anywhere, right? However, with the National Guard, when there's a vacancy, an AGR vacancy, you're serving at that guard unit here. And so you're full-time. Let's just say, for example, you could be in headquarters up in Austin, and you would serve full-time there, right? And so you're not necessarily they're not going to tell you, hey, in 2 years, you're going to have to move to North Carolina, or we're going to station you in California. Like, that's not how it works. Like, you are full-time support for the guard unit that, again, you're volunteering for. And so I think that's pretty awesome, because if there is a vacancy, you could volunteer for full-time service and serve as a full-time active duty soldier without worrying about uprooting your family and having to go somewhere else, and moving every 2 or 3 years. So I think that's pretty dope, if you ask me. I don't know a ton more information about that because, again, I haven't been quite immersed into my unit quite yet. I've been drilling at the RSP, which is the Recruit Sustainment Program, which I think is an awesome program, at least here in Texas. My RSP unit has been amazing. I've read some horror stories on Reddit about some of the other RSP units across the country that aren't necessarily run as efficiently as they should, or as efficiently as we do down here in Texas. So if you want to know more about RSP, let me know down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to make a video about that. I think it's pretty dope here. So in summation, I think that those are 3 pretty awesome benefits. I know there's a ton of videos out there that share other benefits that I didn't cover today. If you know some awesome benefits about the National Guard, like, feel free to drop them down in the comments below and share it with people out there. Again, I just want to make these videos just to help people, right, and share more information. If you're interested about joining, in joining the National Guard here in Texas, specifically here in San Antonio, you want to get connected with a great recruiter, let me know. I've got plenty of contacts. But I think that, again, those are the 3 awesome benefits. Serve close to home, the federal and state tuition funding, which is awesome. And then your ability to serve full time as well. I mean, you can't beat it. So, I'll make another video sharing what I think are probably the 3 biggest cons about joining the National Guard, and I'll share that at a later time. But again, if you got any questions, need more info, drop them down in the comments. I appreciate y'all for sticking around, and if you can, give me the HBO special, man. Help a brother out. Hit the like button, subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers. That would be an awesome accomplishment for me. I think I'm somewhere around 40 right now. So if you can help me out, it doesn't take any effort from you, and I won't bother you. Just hit the subscribe button, and again, it helps me out. So I appreciate y'all. Have a good one.